The American P-47 Thunderbolt came out of the sun at 22,000 feet over northern France. Engine screaming. 7 Messerschmitt Bf-109s, closing fast from above and behind. The pilot's hands were slick inside his leather gloves. His oxygen mask fogged with each breath. The radio crackled with warnings from his wingmen. Already breaking away. Already diving for the deck. Standard doctrine said dive. Get speed. Get distance. Get home. But Lieutenant James Harlow did something else. He pulled back the throttle. He let the Thunderbolt slow. The Germans were 3 seconds from firing range. What happened next would be analyzed in Allied briefing rooms for the rest of the war. And it started with a farm boy from Nebraska, who everyone said would never survive his first month. If you want more true stories of impossible moments from World War II, subscribe to the channel. June 1944. The skies over occupied France had become a killing field. Allied bombers hammered German positions day and night, and the Luftwaffe's veteran pilots defended with everything they had left. Every mission cost lives. Every sortie was a calculated risk. The 56 Fighter Group, based out of Boxstead, England, flew deep escort missions into enemy territory, protecting bombers that carried the hope of invasion. The math was brutal. Outnumbered, outgunned at altitude, facing pilots who had been flying combat since Poland. Lieutenant James Harlow joined the 56th in late May. He was 23 years old. Before the war, he had worked on his family's wheat farm outside Grand Island, fixing tractors, reading engineering manuals by kerosene lamp. He had never seen the ocean before boarding the transport ship to England. He had never fired his guns in combat. His squadron mates called him Book because he carried a worn copy of aerodynamics theory in his flight bag. Some thought it was good luck. Most thought it was a waste of weight. The veteran pilots noticed him immediately. Not because he was talented, because he was different. While others talked about gun harmonization and deflection shooting, Harlow sketched diagrams on napkins in the mess hall. Airflow, drag coefficients, stall characteristics. One pilot, a Texan ace named Roy Webb with 9 kills, asked him once what he was drawing. Harlow explained how a P-47 could bleed energy and it turned faster than a Bf-109 if the angle of attack exceeded a certain threshold. Webb laughed, told him to save the classroom stuff for after the war, told him that up there, instinct kept you alive, not math. Harlow didn't argue. He just kept reading. His first 3 missions were uneventful. Milk runs. He held formation. He followed orders. He didn't fire a shot. Some of the older pilots started to relax around him. Thought maybe the kid would be okay. Thought maybe he would make it. Then came June 12th. The mission brief was simple. Escort B-17s to a rail yard outside Reims. Expect heavy resistance. Luftwaffe fighter bases were close. Intelligence reported at least 2 veteran Jägerschwader units operating in the area. Men who had flown in North Africa. Men who had flown over Stalingrad. Harlow sat in the back of the briefing room, listening. The operations officer traced a route on the map with a wooden pointer. Ingress. Target. Egress. Expected enemy contact over the target zone. Stay with the bombers. Do not chase. Do not break formation for single kills. The group had lost 4 pilots the week before doing exactly that. Harlow made notes in the margin of his mission card. Wind speed. Temperature. Altitude. He calculated fuel burn. He calculated time over target. He didn't talk to anyone. The takeoff was loud and cold. 18 Thunderbolts roared down the grass strip in pairs. Engines bellowing, propellers clawing air. Harlow was flying as number 4 in the second flight. His wingman was a lieutenant from Ohio named Carl Dietrich, a quiet man with pale eyes who had 5 missions under his belt. They climbed through a layer of broken clouds, formed up over the English Channel, and turned east. The sunlight was sharp at altitude. The world below looked like a painted map. Fields, roads, rivers. No sign of the war until they crossed the French coast and saw the bomb craters. The bombers were already ahead, a formation of 36 B-17s stacked in tight combat boxes, their contrails drawing white lines across the blue. The fighters spread out in a loose weave, scanning the sky. Harlow's eyes moved constantly. High, low, 6 o'clock. Nothing yet. The radio was quiet except for the occasional position call. His mouth was dry. He checked his gun switches. Armed. He adjusted his seat harness. Tighter. The Thunderbolt felt heavy and solid beneath him. 8 tons of engine and armor. A machine built to take punishment. They crossed into enemy airspace at 23,000 feet. The temperature outside was 30 below zero. Ice crystals formed on the canopy edges. Harlow could see his breath inside the cockpit despite the heater. The bomber stream stretched ahead for miles, a slow-moving target that every German fighter in France could see. It was only a matter of time. The call came at 1,420 hours. Bandits high, 11 o'clock. Angels 25. Harlow looked up and left. At first, nothing. Then he saw them. Small dark dots, maybe 15 miles out, descending fast. The lead flight banked toward the threat. Harlow followed, advancing throttle, climbing. The dots grew into shapes. BF-109s. A lot of them. Someone on the radio counted 8. Then 10. Then more. They were coming in from above and ahead. The classic Luftwaffe bounce. Diving through the escort to hit the bombers before the fighters could react. The sky erupted. Tracers laced the air in bright streams. A 109 flashed past Harlow's canopy, close enough to see the pilot's helmet. He pulled hard left, trying to follow, but the German was already gone, rolling inverted and diving. Harlow's vision tunneled. His heart hammered. He searched for a target. Another 109 cut across his nose, guns flickering. He didn't fire. Too much deflection. The moment passed. Then the radio exploded with voices. 2 more groups, 6 o'clock high. They're behind us. Break right, break right. Harlow looked back over his shoulder and felt his stomach drop. Another wave of BF-109s, maybe a dozen, coming down from the sun, and they were fast. The German pilots knew what they were doing. They had split the attack. Half hit the front, half hit the rear. Classic tactics. Divide. Separate. Isolate that Harlow's flight leader called the break. Red flight, defensive split, go, go, go. The Thunderbolts scattered. Harlow broke left, Dietrich with him, diving to gain speed. But the 109s followed. They didn't chase the others. They locked onto Harlow and Dietrich. 3 fighters, now 4, now 5. Harlow's throat tightened. He pushed the throttle to the stop. The engine roared. The Thunderbolts surged forward. But the 109s were already diving, already faster, already inside his turn radius. Dietrich's voice came through, tight and scared. Book, I can't shake them, I can't. Then his transmission cut off. Harlow twisted in his seat, looking back. Dietrich's P-47 was trailing smoke, canopy shattered, falling away in a slow spiral. No shoot. Harlow felt something cold settle in his chest. He was alone, and there were more than 5 now. He counted 7, then 9. 9 veteran Messerschmitt pilots, hunting 1 American rookie. Standard doctrine was clear. Dive. The P-47 could outdive anything the Luftwaffe had. Get to the deck, use your speed, extend, and escape. Harlow rolled inverted and started down. The 109s followed. The altimeter unwound. 20,000, 18,000, 15. The airspeed needle climbed past 400 miles per hour. The controls stiffened. The Thunderbolt shook. But when Harlow looked back, the Germans were still there. Still closing. Still patient. They weren't rookies. They knew the P-47 could dive. They had done this before. One of them fired a burst, testing range. Tracers snapped past Harlow's right wing. Close. Too close. He jinked left, then right, losing energy with every movement. 12,000 feet. The ground was coming up fast, green and brown, fields and hedgerows. He had maybe 30 seconds before he had to pull out or hit the earth. And that's when James Harlow stopped following the manual. That's when the farm boy who sketched diagrams and read theory did something no one expected. He pulled back the throttle. He let the Thunderbolt slow. He brought the nose up, bleeding speed, letting the fighter hang in the air like a falling leaf. The Germans behind him saw the P-47 decelerate. They saw the gap closing faster than they anticipated. and they reacted the way every pilot reacts when a target slows in front of them. They tried to slow too. But physics doesn't care about instinct. The lead Messerschmitt overshot, then the second, then the third. They flashed past Harlow's canopy, one on each side, close enough to see rivets, pilots' faces, the black crosses on their wings. For one frozen moment, Harlow was behind them. He pushed the throttle forward. The engine bellowed. He squeezed the trigger. The 850 caliber machine guns in the Thunderbolt's wings erupted. The lead 109 took the full burst in the fuselage. Metal tore. Smoke poured. The fighter's snap rolled right and went down trailing fire. The second 109 tried to brake left. Harlow followed, pulling lead, firing again. Hits walked up the wing route. The German fighter shuddered, slowed, nosed over. 2 down. 7 left. But now they knew. Now they understood. The American wasn't running. The American was thinking. The remaining Messerschmitts scattered, climbing and splitting, trying to reset the engagement. Harlow didn't chase. He turned hard left, gaining altitude, looking for separation. His head was on a swivel. His breathing was fast but controlled. He knew what he had done. He had traded altitude for time. He had turned the enemy's aggression into a mistake. But the fight wasn't over. 3 109s were formed above him, circling like wolves. The others were somewhere close, repositioning. Harlow was at 8,000 feet now, alone, low on airspeed, deep in enemy territory. His fuel gauge showed just over half. He had maybe 20 minutes before he had to turn for home, if he lived that long. The next attack came from his left. 2 109s, diving in tandem, one high and one low. A bracket attack. If he climbed, the high one would get him. If he dove, the low one would get him. He had 1 second to decide. He rolled right, pulling into a climbing spiral, tightening the turn until his vision grayed at the edges. The high 109 followed, trying to cut him off. The low one pulled up, trying to lead the turn. They were coordinating. They were good. Harlow watched the high fighter, watched the angle, watched the closure rate. The German was pulling hard, nose high, trying to get his guns on target. And that's when Harlow did it again. He chopped the throttle. The P-47 decelerated violently. The nose dropped. The high 109 overshot again, crossing in front. Harlow fired. Short burst. The 109's canopy exploded. The fighter rolled inverted and fell. 3 down. But now he was slow. Vulnerable. The low 109 was climbing toward him, already in range. Harlow saw the muzzle flashes before he heard the sound. Cannon shells tore through his left wing. Alarm screamed. The Thunderbolt lurched. He pushed the throttle forward, kicked right rudder, tried to break away. The 109 stayed with him. Another burst. Hits in the tail. Metal ripped. The stick went mushy. Harlow's hands tightened. He was hit. He was losing control. And the German wasn't done. The Messerschmitt pulled up for another pass, confident now, moving in for the kill. Harlow's mind raced. He couldn't dive. He couldn't climb. The left aileron was damaged. The rudder was barely responding. He was a crippled target at 6,000 feet with 4, maybe 5, enemy fighters still hunting him. Standard doctrine said bail out. Save yourself. The plane was done. But James Harlow didn't bail out. He looked at the damaged wing. He looked at the horizon. He looked at the German coming back around. And he remembered something from that aerodynamics book. Something about asymmetric drag. Something about using damage as a weapon. He pushed the stick forward and rolled right into the damaged wing. The Thunderbolt didn't respond smoothly. It shuddered and yawed, the torn metal creating turbulence, the asymmetric lift pulling the nose in directions it shouldn't go. To any other pilot, it would have felt like the plane was dying. To Harlow, it felt like unpredictability. And unpredictability was a weapon. The Bf-109 closed again, lining up for what should have been an easy kill. The German pilot saw the erratic movements, saw the smoke trailing from the wing, saw a wounded aircraft struggling to stay airborne. He adjusted his aim, leading the turn, finger on the trigger. But the Thunderbolt didn't turn the way it should have. The damaged wing created a sudden snap roll, throwing the nose 30 degrees off axis in half a second. The German's burst went wide. He pulled up to reposition, frustrated, confused. Harlow used the moment. He leveled out, or tried to, fighting the controls, coaxing the big fighter back to something resembling stable flight. The stick vibrated in his hands. The left wing dipped and rose randomly, but he was still flying, still fighting. The 109 came around again, more cautious this time. The German had seen 3 of his comrades go down. He wasn't going to make the same mistake. 2 more Messerschmitts appeared above, rejoining the fight. Harlow's chest tightened. 6,000 feet. Damaged aircraft. 3 enemy fighters with altitude advantage. The numbers didn't work, but numbers never told the whole story. The lead 109 dove first, steeper this time, building speed, planning to flash past and climb away before Harlow could react. But Harlow didn't try to turn with him. He did the opposite. He pushed the nose down, diving toward the deck, using gravity to build what little speed the damaged Thunderbolt could manage. The 109 followed, committed now, closing the gap. 300 yards. 200. Harlow could see the fighter growing in his mirrors. At 100 yards, Harlow pulled. Not a smooth pull. A violent, wrenching pull that used every bit of the Thunderbolt's massive airframe and the last reserves of airspeed. The nose came up. The wings groaned. The damaged left side flexed and popped. But the big fighter rotated, pulling into a near-vertical climb that bled energy like a thrown anchor. The 109 behind him tried to follow, but the Messerschmitt was lighter, faster, built for agility. It couldn't dump speed like the Thunderbolt. The German pilot pulled harder, felt the controls go soft as the fighter approached stall. And then Harlow did it one more time. He cut the throttle completely. The Thunderbolt hung in the air, suspended, almost stopped. The 109 shot past beneath him, helpless, overshooting again. Harlow rolled inverted, falling back onto the German's tail, shoved the throttle forward. The engine coughed, caught, roared. He fired. The burst was long and deliberate. 50 caliber rounds tore into the 109's engine cowling. Oil sprayed across the windscreen. Smoke poured. The fighter nosed over and went down. 4. The remaining 2 Messerschmitts broke off. Harlow watched them climb away, circling wide, regrouping at 10,000 feet. They didn't leave. They didn't run. They were thinking, reevaluating. They had come into this fight expecting an easy kill. They had found something else. Now they were trying to decide if it was worth the cost. Harlow didn't wait to find out. He turned west, nose down, nursing the damaged Thunderbolt toward friendly lines. The left wing was shredded, flapping in places, a section of aileron completely gone. The rudder was sluggish. The fuel gauge was dropping faster than it should. Something in the tank had been hit. He calculated time and distance. 60 miles to the coast. Maybe 15 minutes of fuel. Maybe less. The math was tight. The 2 109s followed at a distance, shadowing him, staying high. They weren't attacking. Not yet. They were waiting for him to slow down, waiting for the engine to fail, waiting for the inevitable. Harlow kept the nose down, trading altitude for speed, wringing every mile out of the dying fighter. 5,000 feet became 4, then 3. The fields below grew larger, more detailed. He could see roads, farmhouses, a small river winding through the valley. At 2,000 feet, the engine started to cough. The oil pressure gauge was dropping, temperature rising. The hits had done more damage than he thought. He switched fuel tanks. The engine smoothed out, but only for a moment. Then it coughed again. Harlow's jaw tightened. He wasn't going to make the coast. He was going to go down in occupied France. If he was lucky, he would survive the crash. If he was very lucky, the resistance would find him before the Germans did. Behind him, the 2 Messerschmitts began their dive. They had seen the smoke. They had heard the engine trouble. They were moving in to finish it. Harlow watched them come. He had no altitude to trade, no airspeed to give, no tricks left. The fighter was dying beneath him, and the Germans knew it. This was the end of the chess game. This was checkmate. Except James, Harlow wasn't done thinking. He looked at the river below, looked at the angle, looked at the 2 fighters closing from behind. And he did something that no doctrine, no manual, no instructor had ever taught. He aimed the crippled thunderbolt at the river and pushed the stick forward into a full dive. Not an escape dive, a terminal dive. Straight down. The airspeed needle jumped. The altimeter unwound. The engine screamed in protest. The two 109s followed, seeing a pilot who had lost his mind, seeing a certain kill. At 500 feet, Harlow pulled. He pulled with everything he had, both hands on the stick, legs braced, body straining against the G-forces. The thunderbolt responded, slowly, grudgingly, the nose coming up 1 degree at a time. The river rushed toward him. 100 feet. 50. The wheels almost touched the water. And then the massive fighter leveled out, racing downstream at 300 miles per hour, 10 feet off the surface. The two Messerschmitts pulled out above him, but they had been going faster. They had been more committed, and they had less mass. Their pulls were sharper, tighter, higher G-forces. One made it. The other didn't. The second 109 mushed through the pull, lost lift, clipped a tree with its left wing, and cartwheeled into the field beyond in a ball of fire. 5. The last German pulled up hard, climbing away, done with the fight. Harlow didn't watch him go. He was focused on keeping the thunderbolt in the air, following the river valley west, using the terrain to mask his position. The engine was rattling now. Temperature redline. Oil pressure almost gone. He had minutes, maybe less. The after-action report took 3 hours to complete. Harlow sat in the intelligence office at Boxstead, recounting every detail, every maneuver, every decision. The debriefer was a major with 15 years in the service. He listened without interrupting. When Harlow described the throttle reductions, the intentional energy bleeds, the use of asymmetric damage, the major stopped writing. He asked Harlow to repeat that part. Harlow did. The major made a note, underlined it twice, and sent the report up the chain immediately. Within a week, 3 senior officers flew in from 8 Fighter Command headquarters. They interviewed Harlow for 6 hours. They brought diagrams. They brought charts. They asked him to explain the physics. He did. He showed them the angles, the energy states, the decision points. They asked if he had ever done this before. He said no. They asked if he had been trained to do this. He said no. They asked where he learned it. He said he figured it out. One of the officers, a colonel with a chest full of ribbons, sat back in his chair and studied Harlow for a long moment. Then he asked a final question. Did Harlow think other pilots could learn this? Could it be taught? James Harlow flew 37 more missions. He was credited with 7 confirmed kills, all BF 109s, all using variations of the tactic he had developed over France. He never became an ace. He never sought glory. He went home after the war, back to Nebraska, back to the farm. He fixed tractors. He read books. He didn't talk about the war unless someone asked. And when they did, he always said the same thing. Intelligence beat instinct. Patience beat speed. And sometimes, slowing down was the fastest way to win. He died in 1989, 71 years old. His obituary mentioned his service, but didn't mention the 9 German fighters. The tactic he invented outlived him. It's still taught today, in different forms, in different aircraft. Fighter pilots call it energy trapping, baiting the overshoot, turning aggression into geometry. But the men who flew with Harlow in 1944 called it something else. They called it thinking while everyone else was reacting. They called it being smarter than the fear. On June 12, 1944, a farm boy from Nebraska proved that the most dangerous weapon in a cockpit wasn't the gun. It was the mind behind it. 7 veteran German pilots learned that lesson. 2 of them survived to tell it. If you enjoy real World War II stories, where skill and courage change history, subscribe for more. The question isn't whether you fight. The question is whether you think while you're doing it. And in the air, that difference decides who lands and who doesn't.